We've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
I'm not going to tell you again.
Okay.
You have your ID on you?
I don't have my
Put your hands right here.
Cops often commit atrocities, forgetting that they can be held accountable. Today we'll go through this shocking case where a corrupt officer faced swift karma in the courtroom, leaving him with nowhere to hide his misconduct. In December of 2018, a YouTuber named Otto the Watchdog stood on public property displaying various signs. Over about 30 minutes, drivers honked and waved, showing their support, but things were about to get dramatic.
And the sheriff's office dispatch.
Hi, there's some people out here at Interstate 30 and South Elm that have some very offensive signs.
Meanwhile, officers from the Roy City Police Department were called to the scene, and Officer Johnny Clark was sent to Otto's location.
Where's Johnny with the other one?
Should be right over here. Thank you.
Yes.
Some guy holding up a sign that says shit is f***ed up and stuff or something.
Still in office.
How are you?
Well, I was doing just fine until just a minute ago.
I've already heard you say a cuss word once.
What do your other signs say, sir? Sir, what do your other signs say?
What am I doing?
Okay, can I see your other signs?
No, leave my seat away.
Sir, we've got a complaint of you out here holding up profanities.
Okay.
Okay, if you don't let me look at your sign, I'll take you in custody for disorderly conduct.
Otto was soon surrounded by officers who came to confront him about his sign. Otto firmly declined consent to the search and seizure multiple times, which infuriated Sergeant Dial. What happened next turned into a shocking standoff.
I'm not going to tell you again.
I'm not being disorderly.
Okay. I'm not going to tell you again. All right?
I don't consent to any searches or seizures.
Okay. This is offensive to people that are driving by. And families that are driving by.
Yes.
Yes, it's disorderly
What's
conduct.
the penal code?
It's disorderly conduct.
Can you read that to me?
It's disorderly conduct. You have your ID on you?
No.
Okay.
Now you're filling the ID.
I don't have
Put your hands right here.
The situation escalated when the senior officer punched the signs out of Otto's hands. Evidently taken by surprise, Officer Clark instinctively jumped back in fear.
Roll over. Since he's failing the ID, take him to jail for disorderly conduct.
When we're here answering a complaint and you refuse to identify yourself, that is a crime. When you're displaying these signs and people are calling because it's offensive to them, that is another crime. So yes, you have committed a crime. You've committed two.
You didn't warn me.
We don't have to warn you. Ignorance of the law.
I asked you politely to see your signs and you said
I
no.
don't consent to any searches or seizures of my property or my person.
I'm not going to take you.
By laying down on the ground and indicating that he thought his intention was illegal, Otto opted for passive resistance. His message was clear. He wouldn't fight back, but wouldn't comply either.
Is that your cell phone and tripod? If it's not, I'm going to leave it sitting here. If it is, I'm going to take it and put it up so somebody doesn't steal it. But if you want to act this way, I'll leave it sitting here and let somebody steal it.
Why would you do that?
Okay. We don't know whose stuff that is either.
I have a question. What am I being arrested for?
The officer just explained.
Now it's time to ask questions.
Oh, it is the time to ask questions.
You know what?
Nobody even asked me to identify. All he did is ask me if I had ID, and I don't have ID.
Let me explain something to you, young man. We're not holding court on the side of the road with you, okay?
Well, you're arresting me.
We're
and
not
I just
holding
want to know
court
why.
with you.
I just want to know why I have handcuffs
Any
on.
questions you have, you can ask the jail, or you can ask the court.
You going to get up?
I can't.
Okay. Roll back over and I'll help you up.
I'm not sure if I can do that either. I would like to see your supervisor right now before you assault me any further. I am being assaulted. I have not committed a crime.
The officer made a questionable threat by saying he would leave Otto's camera at the scene for anyone to take it. This remark only made things worse for the officer.
I have not committed a crime.
Get up.
I have not committed a crime. I can't get up. You're hurting me. You are hurting me.
Then get up.
I cannot get
Then
up.
get
like
up.
This. I can't
Get up.
like this.
They lift you up.
I'm trying to get up. Matt, please.
Get up.
Well, assist me up instead of trying to.
We're trying to help you up.
I cannot.
Lift you
I'm
up.
not trying to be an ass.
Yes.
No, what
I've seen the game before. Roll up to your knees and they will assist you up.
Roll up to my knees. I'm a fat man.
Okay.
Help me to my knees.
We already have one.
Well, help me again. Now they'll lift you straight
Come on your
up.
feet.
Stand up. Okay, help me up. I have committed no crime. I have committed no crime whatsoever.
That's not yours. Remember, I asked you earlier. Come on.
So you're gonna leave my shit on the side
Get
of the
in
road.
the
Get my
car.
equipment. Get my equipment. You dude, I'm asking for you to get my. Hey, I've committed no crime.
Unlock your car,
No
please.
crime.
I want to turn this phone off.
I ain't turning nothing off. I'm gonna leave it right like that. Put it in evidence.
According to cops, Otto was detained for not identifying himself. However, under the Texas Penal Code, a person is not legally required to identify themselves unless they are under arrest.
If it was his, he didn't want to talk.
I heard it on.
Yeah,
He knew where his car was.
somewhere up there. If I had to bet.
The law, you're still under arrest for failed ID.
I was under arrest, and then I ID'd, as the code says.
No, the code says when you're legally detained, you're required to ID yourself. You did not.
It specifically says arrested. I didn't do nothing.
What's your phone number?
I didn't do nothing.
Otto took a stand against the injustice by filing a lawsuit against Sergeant Dial and Officer Short for violating his First Amendment rights and malicious prosecution. The sergeant was then taken to a deposition where Otto's lawyer expertly dismantled his defense, leaving him completely exposed.
As I explained earlier, one, it was an officer safety issue because I don't know what the signs are made out of or what they were. They could be used as a weapon. And secondly, we were still investigating whether a crime had been committed. And he was unwilling to show us what the other two signs or what the sign said other than what we could see.
Did you believe that Mr. Knowles had an obligation to give you those signs?
What do you mean, an obligation?
Did you have the right to see those signs?
Well, it's part of our investigation.
Did Mr. Knowles have the right to refuse showing you the signs?
Anybody can refuse anything.
Objection form.
Why did you hit the sign so hard?
Objection form.
Now, you would think that Sergeant Dial, after being 11 years on the police force, would be well versed in his knowledge about the law, but that is not the case. His lack of knowledge was blatantly obvious.
I don't know what your definition of hard and soft is, and that was 5 years ago.
How do you define hard and soft? You can use your own definition, please.
In regards to what?
The level of force that you applied to the signs.
I mean, I don't know how I would describe hitting a sign soft or hard.
Why didn't you use less force when touching the signs?
Objection.
I didn't know I used too much force.
Could you have used less force when touching the signs?
Objection form.
In regards to what? I mean, what was the amount of force that I used?
You said earlier that you conducted an investigation after you arrived on the scene that day with Knowles. What were the results of that investigation?
In regards to what?
In addition to violating Otto's First, Fourth, and 14th Amendment rights, the sergeant's complete ignorance about the laws surrounding disorderly conduct was painfully obvious.
Did you find anything during your investigation that caused you to arrest Knowles, that caused anyone to arrest Knowles?
Through our investigation, we determined that disorderly conduct had been committed
How did disorderly conduct get committed?
due to the verbiage that was on the signs, and we had received complaints.
His lack of knowledge showed that he was not qualified for the job.
If you received the same complaints and those signs had said something different, would Knowles have been arrested?
The same complaints in what? Because the complaint we had was, it was vulgar and offensive.
What I'm asking you is, if the complaints were the same, but the contents of the signs were different, would Knowles have been arrested?
Objection form.
What if the sign said Blue Lives Matter? How is Blue Lives? There's nothing vulgar about Blue Lives Matter. There's no profanity in Blue Lives Matter.
Are you saying that if the sign said Blue Lives Matter, Knowles would not have been arrested.
I'm telling you that based on the complaints that we received that day, a guy telling me that he was offended by the profanity and vulgar that was being used in the signs.
Objection, non-responsive.
Sergeant Dial couldn't cite a single law that Otto had broken and claimed that the arrest was made simply because someone was hurt by the signs. Clearly, he needs to pick up a book on the Constitution.
The complaints were the same, but the signs said Blue Lives Matter. Would Knowles have been arrested that day?
Objection found.
There's no vulgar or profanity in in the verb or term, the verbiage or term Blue Lives Matter.
Do you think anyone that says a bad word publicly should be arrested?
No.
Why not?
Did someone complain on them, or are they just out there just throwing a fit? No complaints. I mean, there's several reasons why we would not arrest someone. I mean, if nobody finds it offensive, then disorderly conduct's not met.
So if the language on the signs had not offended someone, Knowles would have been arrested, or would he not have been arrested?
So you're telling me we didn't receive any calls and nobody complained to us? Would we have arrested Knowles that day?
Correct.
No, we wouldn't not have.
The lawyer held the sergeant's feet to the fire during the deposition, completely controlling it, but the best part was yet to come.
What specifically did Clark say to you about Knowles' prior disorderly conduct?
He was explaining it to Knowles that as I'm walking up, he's explaining it to him that, look, I've already heard you out here cussing at people.
So he was talking to Knowles, not you.
That is correct.
Did any motorists complain about the prior alleged profanities that Knowles said before you arrived?
Well, the one gentleman told me about the signs, and regarding what the people on 911 called in about, I do not recall that.
If anyone complained about verbal language and you didn't hear any allegedly profane verbal language from Knowles at the scene?
I did not hear it, but I heard Clark explaining to Knowles that he has already witnessed it or observed it himself.
The lawyer was ready to ask the question, leaving the officer speechless.
Do you know one word of profanity that Knowles said?
No, I do not.
And you are not aware of any person that was offended by what Knowles said?
No.
The sergeant dug his own grave when he admitted that the arrest was made based on the information on the placard.
Were you offended by the contents of his signs?
No.
Why did you think they were offensive?
The sergeant's mistakes continued to mount as the lawyer focused on the core issue of First Amendment rights.
So you would arrest somebody if a citizen complained about vulgarities?
Objection found.
So a citizen made the police department or dispatch aware that they had used profanities and vulgarities and were...
Been 5 people in your career?
I believe that would be an accurate statement.
Have you observed more than 10 arrests in your career?
I'd probably say I have observed more than 10 arrests in my career.
It is startling that a 10-year police veteran was unaware of the First Amendment. For the whole law enforcement community, this raises a crucial question of what sort of police officers are being trained and produced.
Have you observed more than 25?
That I don't know.
Have you observed more than 30 arrests in your career?
I don't know.
Do you remember any specific details about your training regarding First Amendment rights?
No, I do not.
Are you saying that you don't remember one word from your training regarding First Amendment rights?
Objection.
That is correct. We went over the elements of the Constitution, and I believe the First Amendment is part of the Constitution.
But specifically the First Amendment, you don't remember?
Correct.
Do you remember how long you spent studying constitutional rights?
No, I do not.
Have you had any training related to constitutional rights since you became an officer?
I do not recall.
For someone in such a high-ranking position, this officer's level of stupidity is astounding. How could someone with such a lack of knowledge be entrusted with authority?
What topics have you been trained on since you became an officer?
I don't recall all of them.
Name one.
Accident investigation.
Anything else?
Well, I'm sure there's others.
Where did you receive the training regarding constitutional rights in 2007?
When I was in the police academy, is that what you're referring to?
I'm referring to the training that you refer to, that you received in 2007 regarding First Amendment rights.
The Collin County College Police Academy.
And who trained you in constitutional rights?
Could not tell you.
Because you don't remember?
You're asking for the instructor's name? No, I do not remember the instructor's name.
This is the result of failing to get enough instruction on constitutional rights and the First Amendment.
Do you remember anything about the protections provided to citizens by the First Amendment?
No, I do not.
Are you aware that the First Amendment gives citizens what's known as the freedom of speech? Have you heard of the freedom of speech?
I have.
What do you think that means?
Interpretations are a dime a dozen, but basically someone can speak freely.
Following the deposition, the city was compelled to settle the case by paying Otto $25,000.
Does the First Amendment protect a person from being arrested because of what they say?
Objection form calls for legal conclusion.
Do I answer it?
Answer.
I think at times it may.
Has the police department provided you with any subsequent training on constitutional rights since you've been an active officer?
I do not recall.
Have you received any training, guidance, or instruction regarding First Amendment rights while you've been a police officer?
Objection form.
In the police academy, I know we went over the constitutional rights.
But anything since then?
I do not recall.
Despite his startling lack of legal knowledge, the sergeant faced no consequences. In fact, he was promoted to lieutenant. Well, that brings us to the end of this video. Today we saw one of the most outrageous and reckless actions from a law enforcement officer who faced instant karma in the courtroom for his misconduct. The officer thought that he could get away with his mistakes, but justice caught up with them. It is a reminder that no one, not even those in positions of authority, is above the law. If you agree, please support me by liking this video. Also, if you enjoyed this video, watch how this police chief was owned by her junior officer.
All right, guys, you done in here? You guys get out of the house, please. You don't need to be searching for
We're not searching going through it.